Good evening, everyone. We're going to wait a couple of more minutes just to see if anybody else jumps in. We start in about 2 minutes. You guys need press. Okay, folks, thank you. We're going to get started. I want to first thank everybody for joining. This is the second time that we've done this between Dino and Tom and myself. As you know, Dino Scalar, our town administrator, and we have Tom Daniels, who is from the Budget Committee. He always has a very long, lengthy title: Vice Chair of the Budget Committee, Trustee of the Trust, and CIP Committee. So thank you both for joining us tonight. The real purpose for this meeting tonight is to provide residents with some opportunity to ask some questions and receive some clarifications around the proposed budget. I spend a lot of time around town, at the different restaurants and so forth, talking with people, and I understand not everybody can attend the public meetings or unfortunately deliberative sessions. So we like to try and take this opportunity to answer any questions that people might have and hopefully clarify and address concerns. I just want to be clear about this because this meeting is being broadcast without a delay. Clearview, I was told earlier this evening, that could no longer simulcast directly like meetings because of what might be said. Though this one is because we're enclosed, but that was the whole primary premise behind accepting questions only via the chat. So if you have a question, please input it into the chat. We can't go live because of the delay. Luke just explained that to me. He said they're not doing live on any other meetings anymore either.
Okay.
Something new they found out through the insurers. So, and most importantly, this is informational only. So no votes are being taken, no motions are being entertained, no debate will occur. Again, the goal is just to ensure that all the residents are well informed. Again, Dino and Tom have put together all these paperwork, have prepared as much as possible. So we look forward to fielding some of your questions. So with that, we'll begin, and I will see if we have any chats. Send a message, please click on new chat and message Rick Dill. Thank you. So that was from our admins. While we're waiting for some chats to come in, Tom, we talked a little bit before about an overview of the budget. I'm going to bring that graph up.
Sure.
And see if you can speak to it. Share graph.
Yeah, so I think while you're looking for that, Rick, I'll, just kind of a quick overview on the budget. So when you go and you pick up the ballot, you're going to see, Article 12, which is going to talk about the budget for the town for the year. And that number, which is going to be $8,986,000, that's a combination of two things. That is the operating budget for the town, and that is the operating budget for the sewer department, which runs separately. So, one thing to keep in mind is that the town is responsible for the sewer department. The taxpayers don't pay for the sewer department, but yet you vote on it as part of that warrant article. And the reason is that the operating budget for the sewer department, which is relatively small, $152,000, that'll end up being a total wash because the town will receive revenues of almost exactly that amount. Sometimes, most of the times it's a little bit more, but the users of the sewer department pay that cost for operating the sewer department. But you as a taxpayer actually vote on it, and it's what's in Article 12. So conversely, there's two parts of the total tax bill that you don't necessarily see all added up together, and that is the warrant articles and then the capital outlays. Capital outlays are things like highway safety grant, DPW patrols, and small, there's a small sober get pulled over where the town has to put that money out, but then ultimately gets that money back in the form of grants. So again, it tends to be a wash. So there's really sort of four components to the budget. And when you add up those four components for 2026, what you're looking at is a budget that would be 9,395,000 or 3.95%. So the increase, if every warrant article passes, if every operating budget passes, just as it's written today at this moment, it would be a 3.95% increase over 2025. So that's kind of a high level of the bigger numbers.
I'm just doing a check to make sure. I don't know if there's a way we can test because nobody has actually entered into the chat as of yet. So I don't have any questions. And Luke, I just want to make sure it's working. Is there a way you can test it? I would have thought we would have had some people questioning. But anyway, thanks for the overview, Tom.
Should Tom keep going with the charts?
Yeah, he absolutely can while I'm looking at these.
Yeah, maybe talk about the ones that went up and
Sure. Yep. So I think so in this first slide, it just shows how this is focused on the operating budget. And you'll also see here that it's blended together with the sewer department. So this is what's on the ballot. And you'll see how it's broken up by department. So you can see that, fire and ambulance, our DPW, and our police department are the three largest departments in terms of a percentage of expenses for the town. And then all the other sort of numbers kind of come underneath there. And then Rick, if you could go to that next slide. Yeah, and so in this slide here, this is a little bit different slice of the information, which is, if you take all those different departments, what are we paying for as taxpayers? You'll see here that the majority of our operating budget goes to employee wages and employee benefits. So 61% of our total operating budget is in our people, right? It's making sure we have the right people, that we have good people, that we're not overpaying them, that we don't have more people than we need, making sure we get it just right. And, the rest of it, the rock salt and the diesel for the trucks and all those other things are not insignificant, but relatively small compared to the 61% that goes towards our people. Contracted services is a fairly big number. A lot of the contracted services is us hiring special groups to perform work where it doesn't make sense to hire our own people. Legal services, copy repair companies. We recently had an employee at our sewer department who retired, and rather than hire a replacement, which would be a high-paid engineer, we hired it out to an engineering service, which ultimately saved the town money by going from a town employee to a contracted service. So I think we do still on the DPW, I think we still have some of our, I think we still contract out some of our plowing on some of the outlier
so
roads.
yeah, some of the smaller roads. Yep, and
That falls into that.
it should be mentioned on the wastewater. State law requires that you have a licensed wastewater manager at your site. So that's what this person does. I know that the DPW team, some of those guys have their license and more are going to be getting their license. So that's down the road.
But kind of, while we're looking at the expenses by type, a lot of people look at it and say, okay, we're going to go up 3.95%. Where are those increases coming from? How much is, what's driving that 3.95%? The biggest one is health insurance. So health insurance, huge impact on our town this year for 2026, $174,000 increase in health insurance. So just one line is almost half of the total increase that we're talking about in our budget this year. Followed by retirement at 92,000, wages 86,000. I mentioned the contracted services. That's a new role for us with the sewer department. So that was 50,000 higher, that contracted services. Our public liability insurance went up 22. Sewer department system repairs went up 20. And again, remember, anything related to the sewer department is offset by revenues that come in from the users of that. We have some extra money this year in our town hall repair maintenance account, 14,000. The highway equipment maintenance, we've started, trucks and some of our highway equipment now have started to get much, much more technical. So the repair work, some of it we can't do, or we have to hire out, and if we can do it, the parts to repair it are very, very expensive. So we've seen some increases there, and that's resulting in a $20,000 increase. So when you add all those 7 or 8 items I just mentioned, those items alone are $478,000, almost $479,000 worth of increases just in those areas. Just on the health insurance, because it's such a big number. Last year, the town moved to a different health plan for our town employees in order to reduce costs. And part of that was that the town employees now have a health plan that is a $3,000 individual, $9,000 family deductible. So we increased the deductibles on the health plan to the town employees, which didn't save us money, but it cut down on the size of the increase that we had last year. Unfortunately, health insurance just skyrocketed again on us, and all those savings that we sort of captured last year, we lost again this year. Health insurance has just gotten really, really tough for the town, and we obviously have to provide that benefit to our employees. So,
hey, I just want to interrupt for one. So we're still working on the chat. There seemed to be an issue with how the people could get in there. Thank you, John Myers, for helping me out with this. So we're working on that. We'll get it fixed in the next couple of minutes.
And Tom, it should be noted that in case people wonder, I do have some numbers of what we have for full and part-time employees, because like you said, it is such a large part of our budget. We have 44 full-time employees and 43 part-time employees. And a lot of those part-time employees will be call people on the fire department. So it's not like we have hundreds and hundreds of people on the payroll. They're just about even between full and part-time.
Yeah, and I think it, obviously we're here talking about 2026 budget. But again, Wakefield having that 16th lowest tax rate in the state, we on the budget committee certainly take very seriously our role to making sure that we look at absolute every single line item. The selectmen, Dino is our town administrator, and the department heads, really understand how important it is to focus this budget on what is needed, not what they want. That's a common theme that we talk to, and we talk about both on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. We talk about it all the time on that group, but we also, of course, talk about it in the Budget Committee to making sure that we are being as frugal as possible, but yet delivering the services that the community needs.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to move on to that next slide?
Sure.
That'll wait for the budget. Do we want to go over that one?
So,
Expense side?
yep, there we go. So this slide here is kind of just a subset of the one that we were just looking for, but it compares how we're spending our money in each of those areas of the spending. So what's going up and what's going down based on the expense type. So you see, for example, this year for 2026, capital reserves and outlays are down. The selectmen, when they presented the budget to the budget committee, knew that the operating budget was going to come in a little heavy, primarily driven by those health insurance costs. And so they pulled back a little bit on how much funding was going to be put aside for capital reserves to help temper the impact to the taxpayer in the tax rate that'll be set for 2026. You'll see a decrease in interest that we are paying. The DPW bond, which is the bond that the town took out on the new DPW building, the interest on that keeps every year that we pay it down, the interest payment gets a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. I believe this is the third year of five. Third year, yeah, because it passed in 2023, took out the bond 24, 25, 26.
Yep.
So we had 2 more after this. So that gets a little bit smaller each year. But what again, kind of focusing on the big number, which is employee wages and benefits, you'll see those in the bottom left-hand corner of this pie graph. Employee wages are up 2.3% over 2025. For those who keep track at home, COLA for 2026 was 2.5. So we're actually coming in with our employee wages, all added up together, we're coming in below the actual COLA increase for the country. So again, the town does a really good job of making sure that we're keeping good people with competitive wages, but that we're not overpaying. As a member of the budget committee, over the years I've been a member of it, both the police department and the fire department, which are two of the largest departments actually, have come to us with full-blown wage scale comparisons. So they do these huge wage scale studies where they look at where we're too low, where we might be a little high, and they really do a good job of looking at that bigger picture to make sure, again, we don't want to be the highest paid because that's costing us money. We don't want to be the lowest paid because now we're losing good people. So, and then we're just churning people, which costs money. But this chart also shows the employee benefits where, we talked about it before, 15.6% of our increase, or employee benefits alone went up 15.6%. And that's retirement. That's for those who fit into the Social Security program. That's their Social Security benefits. It's the retirement plans for the programs for the police and fire. It's all those numbers added together, which go into that benefits number. So it's a big number, and unfortunately, some of it is out of our control. We as a community have nothing. We don't have any say in how the state sets the retirement percentages for the fire and for police. They tell us what it is, and there's a calculation, and it ends up in the budget. So this again just kind of shows, again, it's one of those questions people ask, the budget's going up. Where is it going up? What am I paying extra for? And this shows you that where it's going up and what you're paying extra for is to keep our people.
Yeah. Still working on this. I've asked them to open it up to everyone's chat. For some reason, it says every single time they see me, it defaults to you. I don't know how you're.
I'm not doing anything.
But it's a bummer. It really is, because I really wanted people to be able to chat. So I got Luke working on that to see if he can just turn it on for everyone. It says chat is on now for everyone. So
Do you want to slide into revenue charts if you have them up?
Yeah, just one quick thing. I mentioned on the COLA that wages is 2.3. COLA actually was 2.8. So
for the federal?
right, COLA on the federal level was 2.8, and our wages are going up 2.3. So our wages are going up $86,000 this year in total.
Dino, do you want to kind of address those and talk about those that you sent over, and just kind of giving Tom a break about where the revenues?
What do we have here?
This is the one I think you sent to me, right? Where the revenues came in from the town revenues?
Sure, yeah.
Again, it's just kind of give people an idea that it's just not all your taxes, your property taxes.
Right.
So go ahead and it's the next slide.
Yeah, well, the next slide.
Oh, look at you guys.
There we go. So it should be stated, as Tom said, what it costs to run the town is in Article, what was it, 12, you said, Tom?
Yeah.
Article 12, which is $8,986,672. That's not what is actually asked for by the taxpayers. That is offset. That number is offset by revenue, roughly right around 3.6 million, that the DRA will look at throughout the year as we report our revenues to them. And at the end of the year, I think this is important, at the end of the year, the Board of Selectmen are setting the tax rate for that year that was already voted on by the townspeople. Sometimes people think that the tax rate is set for the upcoming budget. In other words, there was some talk about the tax rate being set for the 2026 budget, and that's not true. It's looking at what we've received for revenue and what we've spent for expenses, and then the DRA puts those numbers together and says, going at this rate, you'll need to do X for a tax rate to continue on. So if you to dig into those revenue numbers a little bit, you can see the purple one is property tax. Obviously, the property tax is a large portion of, or over half of the portion of the revenue. Working your way up to the right, you can see rooms and meals tax. So every time you go to a restaurant, there's a rooms and meals tax, or a hotel. That is our portion, which was approximately 560,000 this year. You have little things like miscellaneous taxes, marriage, dog licenses, motor vehicle registration, which was massive. The town clerks here in this office bring in 1.556 million in motor vehicle registration. A little bit of interest on investments, highway block grant, which Tom alluded to. That's roughly 145,000 a year. That's all money when you go through the tolls. The state has an equation, and that's our portion of that. Building permits, obviously in code. Brookfield, they use our services for transfer station, police, and fire. We have an equation with them where they basically pay 12% of those departments, and that number's there, roughly just under 600,000 for that. Ambulance charges, which we get through Comstar. Police safety grants, Tom had mentioned that. Warrant articles, unassigned fund balance, transfer station charges, which is doing very well, just over 300,000 for transfer station total for recyclables, and that seems to be going up every year. That's a good offset for us. I want to talk a little bit about, if I might, the unassigned fund. The unassigned fund is what people will call either rainy day fund or a slush fund, and it can be used only in a couple of ways. It can be used at the end of the year when the selectmen set the tax rate. They can take from that fund to offset the tax rate. So when they take that money, it's used as revenue, which we've just been talking about, and that's used to offset the 8,900,000 that we're asking for. Or it can be used during voting, and we would talk about this at deliberative session. If one of the warrant articles, for example, was asking for 100,000, the selectman could write the warrant to say 50,000 to come from the unassigned fund. So now you're only raising 50,000 in taxes, and the rest would come from the unassigned fund. Where we've gone in the past with the selectmen throwing money, I call it throwing money, but buying down the tax rate, sometimes you can go a little bit too far, and you buy down the rate in such a way where, let's say you put 500,000 to buy down the tax rate, that 500,000 is still considered revenue by the Department of Revenue Agency in Concord. So instead of that 500,000 coming through our books to help pay the bills and salary, etc., it's now just considered kind of revenue money that's almost like smoke and mirrors, where it's just used to offset, but we actually don't get the cash. So the selectmen this year, in their wisdom, said, we're not going to put any money towards buying down the tax rate, in hopes maybe we could do something next year, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And it's overdoing it and putting too much towards the tax rate, which causes you to do a TAN. You might have heard us talk about that. It's called a tax anticipated note. And what you're doing is borrowing money just to get you through the finish line to get the new taxes in. So Sorry if I rambled there, but I thought those were some important points.
Yeah, maybe expand on a little bit on the unassigned fund balance. The DRA has some rules around
Yeah.
where that number needs to be.
Yeah, they sure do. They have a number, and what it is, it's a percentage of what you're evaluated for, put against what you're asking for taxes. And they don't want it to be too little in case you have a major emergency with your town, of which we did back in 23, but they don't want it to be too much because then you're just sitting on a lot of taxpayer money. So they have a bracket of 5 to 17% is where they want you to be. The lowest we've been was right around 6.4. I think we're up to just under 7%. And if you were to talk to the people that work at the DRA, they really think 7% is a good number. We do know that that unassigned fund, a lot of people think that we can just dive into that. Really, the only way you can get it is those two that I mentioned, or you have a special meeting to pull the money out. It has to be voted on by the people. So it's a great thing to have. It's not easily accessible.
Still not much luck with it. I apologize.
Nothing?
No, I don't know what's going on with it. I try, and Luke can send me messages from his personal account, but I mean, just to kind of reiterate, Luke was saying that if you go down into the chat and then select new chat and scroll down and find my name, you should be able to send a message to me in that manner. Oh, Bill Marshall, I just saw you test. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So hopefully that'll work and people can start putting their questions in.
So, good.
I was just going to talk a little bit about the tax rate, if I might, because the tax rate was set at $8.71. Just like to break that down, because that's obviously not all town. There are 4 categories that make up that $8.
Slides.
What's that next slide?
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, one more. Sorry, last slide. There you go.
Oh, thank you. I should have known Tom would tag one on
Yeah,
this.
look at this.
So there's 4 categories that make up that $8.71. And the first is the town. So $2.53 is the town portion, 75 cents for the county, $4.33 for the school, which would be our local school. And then we also pay state education with $1.10. All those numbers equal the 871. And by contrast, back in 2023, which I think was the first year of the eval, wasn't it, Tom? The first real, we had a tax rate of about 12.28, I believe.
So 22, it was 12.25, and then 2023 was when the reval hit.
When it hit. So usually what happens is the reevaluation will kind of, and a lot of people have said this, their property values would skyrocket, but the tax rate would also be almost cut in half. So that was 685 in 23, which was bought down some by the selectmen. 23, I believe it was 500,000. And then in 2024, it was $7.52. It was bought down considerably by the selectmen. That was going to be high sevens. They bought it down to 752. And again, with a little bit of overreach there, that's why they pumped the brakes, and we're at $8.71 this year.
So a lot of people were talking, saying like, oh, the tax rate went down, but it's going to go up. But obviously it's got to go up somewhat, right? It's not going to just go from $6.85 to $12.25 like it was before.
No.
Inflation happens, things cost more money.
I mean, it's going to go up factor 2 things, right? We're spending more money and we're bringing in less revenue, right? And so I think as Dino mentioned, bringing in less revenue, part of that is this unassigned fund balance. There's no cash there to take sitting in the, like Dino says, it's not like the DRA writes us a check. It's our money. It's sitting in our bank account. But if the cash isn't there, then we can't withdraw. And, in 23 and 24, the selectmen wanted to give the taxpayers back their money, and they did. But now there's no money left to give. So, there's that fine line, because you have to have cash.
So a question just here came in from Natalie Kelly. It says, do part-time employees get medical benefits?
They can buy into our medical benefits at a different rate. We have a couple that are actually doing that. So that is an option for our part-timers if they choose to. On that same note, we do have buyouts. So we have 5 family plans and 2 single plans that if their spouse has a better plan than Wakefield, we pay them as a buyout. So we have 7 people that we're not paying for insurance, but we have bought them out with a total of about $5,000.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, part-time is 30 hours. When they go over 30, then they're eligible, right? Isn't that
35.
35 is
35.
full-time?
Yes.
Right. So 30 hours,
Hmm.
they're buying, they're co-paying with us.
Yeah.
Or different percentages, but then at 40 hours, now they're full-time. That's the 35 versus 40.
Yes.
Go back to the other one you
Or,
said.
I'm sorry, 30 to 35 hours is the difference between
Correct.
part and
Yep.
full.
Go back to the one you were just talking about. Their spouse has it, insurance. And the reason I ask is like in my situation, I was always under Carol's health care, her plan. Now I'm employed with this other company. If I choose to stay on Carol's plan, they charge Carol more money because there's another one's available. Is that similar here or no? Am I way up?
No,
this
we
stuff?
just recently started this buyout thing, probably a couple of years ago, Tom, doing the buyout.
Right.
It was something
When-
we should have been doing, but
Last year Ken was here.
yeah, last year Ken was here. No, it's just and they don't get that, they don't get that money right up front. It's over the
Right.
year on quarterlies.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're in essence, we're providing a carrot for them to join their spouses.
Right.
And we're benefiting as a community, as a taxpayer, we're benefiting because we're relieving ourselves of the full burden of the insurance. We're not giving them that full
Right.
boat of money.
Right.
But they do get a little bit of a carrot to say, oh, I'll join my spouses.
And we have to be very careful because the state law says we can't really solicit them, but we can offer it. And if they come to us, then that's how we do it. So it's been working well so far.
Tom, I want to go back to you. I don't know if you covered these in your previous slides, but what are the major items that went up?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about that earlier with the health insurance, retirement. So health insurance, 174,000, retirement, 92,000, wages, 86,000, contracted services at the sewer department, 50,000, the public liability insurance, 22. That's kind of the slip and fall insurance.
Yep.
It's more than that, but that's part of it. Heavy equipment maintenance, sewer department, system repairs. So we've got to do some work up at the sewer department, up at the to replace they refer to them as the ribs, where they've got to dig up all the sand and replace it. And it's a special type of sand and all that to make sure that, we're not damaging anything out there environmentally. So that's an extra 20,000, some town hall repairs. So when you add all those up, it comes to $479,000 just in those 6 items. I think one of the things we talked about before, and we were talking about the tax rate in 2025. I think a lot of people got that tax bill in December, had a little bit of a sticker shock, and they said, well, here's what I paid in June and look at how much I'm paying in December. It went up, I'll just tell you my own personal, it went up 39% from that bill in June to that bill in December. And so everybody says, well, my tax bill went up 39%. And that's not really accurate. The bill went up 39%. But what people have to remember is that June bill is an estimate. So it's an estimate that's based off of 2024, what you were paying, plus a little bit more based on what the anticipated expenses are, but it's all anticipated. So it's just an estimate to kind of get you there a little bit closer. The actual tax rate doesn't get set until end of October, early November.
Why is that?
That's a great DRA state question.
State question, but
It's a great mystery. Don't pull back that curtain.
Yeah, all right. Well,
There's a lot of data that gets put into that all the departments, the state education tax, the count, right? All those groups all have to input into it. I know trustees of the trust, we have a little piece. The school has a big chunk. Everybody's got to throw their numbers in to that DRA portal. And then the DRA spits it out. If you're lucky in October, or likely it's November.
yeah.
But what you really want to, if you look at the tax rate that gets set, And because I did this math in preparation of today's meeting, I went and added up my tax bills, both tax bills from 2024. I added, and then I took and added up my tax bills for 2025 and added the two together and compared them. And they went up exactly what the tax rate is on this chart.
Yeah.
They went up, exactly that 15 point, it was a 15.8% increase from 2024 to 2025.
Yeah.
So you got to add the two together. The first one's estimated, and so the second one can be a little higher, especially if the first one's too light. But again, all that is set by the DRA in terms of what we can do.
Exactly. And that's the point I was making was we work with the DRA 3 times a year when we talk about revenues, and we have to send in these forms and the budget committee has to sign them and we get them in there. And that's what the DRA will look at the end of the year. They'll say, okay, with your revenues that you're predicting for the end of the year and what you have been spending, this is your tax rate. And I think the misnomer is because this all happens during budget season, people think that we've set a budget and now this is the rate that we need to get the budget. And that's, so when you vote in March, you're going to be voting for the tax rate that's coming in the future.
I think that will really help clarify a lot of things for people. One thing I gotta go back to, Natalie asked, I think it was, she asked how many part-time employees we have. Was it 40 or 43?
Oh, I'm sorry, 43.
43. Okay, great. Glad we could answer that one.
We move up to 104 employees total if you count the ballot clerks. So the ballot clerks bring us from 43 part-time to 64. So there's a lot of them out there. But again, that's very, very sporadic. So
Go ahead.
I was just going to say a good number to use is about 87.
And right, because you said it also includes the call fire.
The call fire. Yeah.
Right. So again, there's a lot of, well, we wish there were more.
Right.
There's not a lot of them, and their dollars aren't a lot of dollars.
And that's summer program kids too, but actually some of those get paid out of their fund, so that we wouldn't actually see that.
Right.
And that's not school school is separate, right?
Right. No school.
Right.
School.
Scott asked a question, does the revenues from the locations hooked to sewer offset the cost, or does the rest of the taxpayers offset it?
100% of it is paid by users.
The users connected?
Yes.
There you go.
Plus, well, the user's connected, and then there are 4 haulers that are allowed to pump into our sewer system. So the
Haulers,
waste hauler.
septic.
Waste hauler.
Yeah. So if you're getting if you're on a private septic system and you have somebody come in and pump you out, their waste is ultimately ending, if it's one of the 4 haulers that are allowed to dump in our system, they're ultimately dumping that into our system as well. And they pay what's called a tipping fee. So indirectly, you are, as a private sewer septic, as a private septic person, you are paying for indirectly, you're paying for that
Right.
because your guy's paying a tipping fee. He's obviously passing that on to you. So 100% of that expenses for the
Good.
sewer department are paid by revenues that come from the sewer department.
That's good. Another question. Glad we finally got this taken care of. It's better interactive. The revenue from the property tax is 56.1%. Historically, it is trending up, down, staying the same, question mark? So is it trending up, down, or staying the same?
So over the past, I'll just say the 3 years, it's trending up. And that's being driven by the decrease in revenue related to the unassigned fund balance. So if you went and looked at 2024, there was a $750,000 off, 750,000 of unassigned funds was put on the revenue side.
Right.
That dropped to $56,000 in 2025, 56,000 in 2025, because it was one ballot question that took money out of it. And in 2026, there's none planned
Correct.
at this point. So, that could change. The selectmen will make that decision in November, but right now there's none planned. So, as a result, because there's less revenue coming in from the unanticipated fund balance, it means that revenue is going to come partially be made up in property taxes. We also see some increases. We're anticipating we'll see an increase in ambulance fees this year because of some changes that the state made with what we can charge Medicaid and Medicare. I think both
Yeah.
Medicaid and Medicare. So we are anticipating some increases in ambulance revenues to go up. And we're also anticipating, we've seen some nice trends coming out of the transfer station for recyclables. So hopefully that'll continue. Like we're getting more for our metal, our steel, and cardboard now that we've fixed the compactor.
Explain that a little bit more in depth if you have the information. That compactor, that seems like such a great moneymaker. My old town never had it. They just got the ones you slide into the slots. Do you have a breakdown of like what that costs us to purchase? And
I do.
oh, you do? Oh, there you go. You get a breather. You take
I have it, but in different,
Yeah.
I'd be all over the place.
No, that's good.
So, we had we call it the baler. The baler went down and Brock was looking into either a new one or getting it repaired. A new one was about 150,000. So Brock started setting aside money, and we went into a period where Brock was able to go through a period where we had a warrant article for the transfer station, and that got passed. Brock ended up repairing the cardboard baler, but found a used baler to do the cans.
Oh,
Because they crush the cans and they bale those as well. So you'll see a three-sided shed out back of the transfer station, and that's where we keep all the recyclables dry because they're worth more money. So between the cans and the cardboard, the cans were $23,647, and the cardboard was $11,108. Our biggest were charging for the demo fees, the demolition. That's 130,000. We have bulky disposal, which was 30,000. Then of course there's permits, shingles, electronics, miscellaneous, tires, batteries, scrap metal. Tom had mentioned, yeah, we're doing very well with scrap metal at 45,642. So I think when you add all those up, it's just over 300,000 to offset. Yeah.
Yeah, so as those numbers go up, then the percentage coming from property tax will come down. But over the last 2 years, the property tax percentage has gone up, primarily driven by that unassigned fund balance.
Right.
That's a big number when you're not, we were putting 500,000 and then 750,000 the last 2 years, and now we don't have that money to put back towards it.
Right. And that's such a valid point, because when you look at your chart and you see that X amount is coming, I think I have it right here. Yeah, 53.4% is coming from tax dollars, which is what the question was. The only way to get that percentage down is if you buy it down with the unassigned fund. But the dangerous game is, as you mentioned, it's not cash. The DRA is not sending us cash money to operate the town. So it's a fine balance that the selectmen are trying to find.
not easy. Not an easy job. Okay, I'm looking to see. We don't have anything else in the questions. Anything else that you gentlemen would like to cover? Or? I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate time. People have to realize they're doing it on their own time. It's just, I'm grateful that they have the time and the knowledge to come in and share their numbers with you folks. And
You had said if we had some time, we'll go over the warrant articles. I think that'd be great because deliberative sessions, Saturday.
Saturday. Yep.
Oh.
So I did put that in the agenda. If anybody had any questions pertaining to the deliberative session, feel free to ask those. I will be asking at the beginning of the meeting, once we get started, if we could get a vote to what's the proper way of passing these zoning articles, or just not address them?
So the way it's been done in the past is you would say articles X through,
Mhm.
whatever, it's 10 or 11 are basically zoning articles. They've had at least a couple of hearings on them. We can't change them. We can't change the intent. They have nothing to do with dollar amounts. If there are any questions, our chairman, Mr. Stewart, is here to maybe field some questions, and that's about it.
Right.
And when I was doing moderate, I didn't read them. I gave the opportunity if people had questions, and sometimes they do. There's a lot of them.
I think that's the best way to approach it. I mean, what did you call it last time? Article drain or something, like too many articles?
Fatigue, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
So
a real thing.
that definitely helps. See if there's any other questions. I don't see any. And no other questions, comments?
Yeah, I think
pertain?
just on the,
Oh,
if I could, just on the
absolutely.
capital projects, I mean, most of them are pretty straightforward. Dino, you can chime in with some, I'll just go over some quick ones. There's 25,000 for transfer station trucks. That is a plan to start setting aside money to buy a new roll-off truck. 4 or 5 years ago, the town decided to buy our own trucks to bring our cans. All right, when you go there and you dump all your trash, you're dumping into a can. We bring our own can. We drive our cans on Thursdays. When the dump's not open, they're working. They drive all those down to Rochester. And by us doing it, it saves us a whole bunch of money. So we bought one, it's paid for. And this money is to set aside money to start accumulating money to buy another one anticipated. So that we don't have to outlay big money. We're putting a little bit aside every year, and that'll be about the time when this one's ready to be replaced.
Here we go.
The only other ambulance, a lot of these are very just straightforward, building up funds for large purchases, the ambulance, the fire truck. Public safety building has 55,000. Our public safety building has reached that magic 25-year mark, and there's a lot of things that go wrong or need to be replaced on a building of that size. So just got done doing the boilers this year, did the floors in 2024 and 2025.
Did the roof?
Did the roof. So this is setting money aside now. They're looking at the windows. And then probably after the windows will be the siding. That's all within the next 5 or 6 years. But the next one on the list is the windows. They're leaking and they need to be replaced. Police vehicle, pretty straightforward. Statistical update, that's something that's required. Boat launch. There's a plan to improve and repair the boat launch at Level Lake, the public access there. And there's a plan that says that this extra 10,000 will hopefully be enough for us to get that repair work done this year. So Alyssa Hall at our Park and Rec and Brock Mitchell at the EPW have met with the folks at the DEP, right? Department of Environmental Protection. Yeah, DEP?
DES.
DES, thank you, DES. Have met with them to say, hey, what can we do here? What can't we do? And I think they've got a pretty good plan. And this, along with some money that we set aside a few years ago, they think will be enough money to get that work done, hopefully in the end of 2026. Drawdown. They got to wait.
It's got to be drawdown.
Right, once it draws down. So hopefully that'll be enough. And those are kind of just the high level ones. The rest of them are pretty, like I said earlier, the selectmen kind of pulled back a little bit on funding capital reserves, knowing that we were going to come in a little high on the operating expenses this year.
And let's talk about that, Tom, because do you have a total for the money articles? I have 408,680. That was my rough math doing it in the on my sheet. And the reason why I mention that, if it's right around 400,000, boy, we've seen capital reserves over $1 million.
Yeah, you got it right.
Last year was in the six and change.
Yeah, it was 550 last year, 408 this year. 2024, it was $1,088,000.
Yeah.
Now we did take 400,000 out of capital reserves and moved it into operating budget. So we used to have folks vote on an individual warrant article for the $400,000 that was used to pave the town roads, and made a decision last year to put that into the operating budget instead of the capital reserve.
Right. And let's talk about that for a second. Let's just be very, very frank. When that happened, when the decision was made, is when we went to a default budget, because not only did the people vote down the budget, they went to the next highest thing, which was Brock's road budget, and they took that out. So, I mean, that affects everybody. When you take the feet out from underneath Brock and his team, and then that's when Brock said, well, we've got to put it in the budget. That I think was a smart move.
We have another question here. It's funny because we were just talking about this before going on, and I asked both Dino and Tom, is Keno revenue neutral? And you responded that we'll find out those numbers.
Hopefully we have a Keno rep coming Saturday to answer questions.
Yeah.
Because this is all over the state, Tom, this question?
Yeah. So the state, historically, so our town in 2022 voted against allowing Keno in town. And then the state decided last year that they were going to force every town to take Keno into the community. With, even if they said they didn't want it, but in the past, the state said, well, you're going to have it. And so they said, but you have 2 years to decide if you don't want to have it again. You have to vote on it again if you don't want it. The selectmen decided that let's just put it back in front, the taxpayer voters said no back in 2022. Why don't we put it back to them and let them make the decision again? Maybe they've changed their minds, maybe they haven't, but let's not have the state tell us what we have to do.
So at a high level, do winnings from Keno help the location of the restaurant or bar that it's in, or is it the town, or
Jury's out on that.
I should be
But the money itself, I believe, is ultimately part of gambling revenue, which is all supposed to go towards education.
Right.
But it is not dollar, if you lose a buck playing Keno in Wakefield, that buck isn't coming to Wakefield. It doesn't,
yeah.
it's not that.
Yeah.
I don't think that mechanism exists. I think the same is true of, so as another example would be our room and meals tax. When you pay your 8.5% tax on your food bill over at Poor People's Pub, that 8.5% that you pay there doesn't come directly to us. It goes to the state, and the state has a whole formula of how it comes back to the towns.
It's good information to know. Not many people.
It doesn't come back directly.
Right.
I've talked about, in our account, we have obviously the room, and I have a short-term rental. I have to charge 8.5% tax on my short-term rental. I pay that money to the state in some way, shape, or form. I hope it comes back to our town, but it doesn't directly.
Fortunately, that number is one of the revenue numbers that increases every year. I banked on a high fours, low fives. It came in at 560. So
yeah, the state changed their formula for how they calculated what goes back to the cities and towns, and as a result, our number ended up. We did see a nice revenue increase in that number.
News.
But they redid their math at they passed a new bill at the state. It's hard to keep track of them all. But net result is we ended up with more money coming into our town from on that line.
You got another one, Rick?
I don't.
No, nothing, huh?
Not right now. So I guess the only thing left really is, again, thanking both of these gentlemen for helping out and contributing. One of the primary drivers for us doing this is, well, for me anyway, is again, being around town and hearing people say all the time and reading on Facebook, the town needs to stop spending money. And my goal anyway was to kind of bring forth where the money's going. It's Dino's not out there driving a Lamborghini, and hopefully it broke down where everything's going. And I appreciate all of you that have asked the questions. And if you like this, thank you, Scott. If you like this, let us know. Maybe we'll do it again. It's just a ways and a means by which to get as much information out to you as transparent as possible. So, Natalie, thank you as well. Any closing comments from you, gentlemen?
I think mostly that I am accessible via email and phone, and I've talked to several citizens that have questions much like what we're talking about, and I'm happy to talk with anybody, even if they want to set up an appointment, call me, email me. Be happy to talk about the tax rate, their assessment. And there are mechanisms if you think your assessment's too high. You can see the young lady downstairs for the assessing department. But biggest thing is please come out on deliberative session this weekend at, you were going to say this anyway, I'm sure, at 9, and then voting is March 10th, right here, both at the town hall.
Yep. And I'll echo Dino's comments. My email is, accessible through the town's website. So I'm listed under both the budget committee and trustees of the trust. So you can find me there and send me an email. And, I always say the budget that you agree 100% with is the budget that you created by yourself with yourself. It's ultimately looking at, did we put together as a group the very best budget that we possibly could? And I think that group would extend to the selectmen, the department heads, and at this point, the budget committee. And, do I like every single aspect of it? I don't. It's only perfect if I did it myself. But it's a good, solid budget. A lot of input went into it. And hopefully people will take the time to educate themselves about it, and they'll decide for themselves what they like and what they don't like.
Where are we currently in the state ranking as
16th
16th?
for tax rate.
Maybe.
Yep. So I think, you'll start to, because every community does the reevals on
Yeah.
a different cycle. So, our
Well,
ranking
goes to
there
right.
will ebb and flow a little bit. I think after the reeval year, we were down at number 5
Yeah.
or 6, and
Yeah.
we've crept back up again, but it's more because other towns have done a reeval and it pushes them
Right.
kind of towards the bottom.
And there's some towns that you can cherry pick in and out only because like, I don't usually count Newington.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
okay.
Newington, they have like 750 people, but they have such a tax base with their industry, right?
Right.
So, and then there are some towns that are not even towns, they're locations. So you gotta watch that. But, yeah, we're pretty low comparatively speaking.
Well, getting up on 4 minutes to the hour. Again, thank you, everyone. Oh, there was one thing I was gonna say. And I totally forgot it. Spaced it.
Was it,
Again, with that.
was it about deliberative or no?
No, I talked about the deliberative, but
Okay.
enough. We'll see everybody on Saturday, but again, thank you all for joining. If you like this, we'll try to do more of
Do
it.
another one, yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, I know what I wanted. I also wanted to thank Luke and the guy upstairs. That's what it was. The guys from Clearview that make this happen. So have a good night, everybody.
Good night.